Welcome back to Basketball Strike. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell, because this story is about to get intense. Did the Indiana Fever actually lose Game 5, or were they robbed by referees who simply refused to let them win? Think about how it all unfolded. Aliyah Boston fouled out late on what, to most fans, looked like a clean rebound. Kelsey Mitchell was hacked repeatedly throughout the night until she cramped so badly she had to be taken to the hospital. Odyssey Sims got clipped and still managed to score 27 points. Yet somehow, the whistle always seemed to lean in favor of the Las Vegas Aces. If you honestly believe this game was fair, you probably weren't paying close attention. This wasn't a defeat in the usual sense. The Fever battled through chaos, injuries, and inconsistent officiating, only to have the entire series stolen from them. Which raises the question, what did Lexie Hull have to say after such a heartbreaking loss, a loss that felt more like theft than failure? That's the part of the story that no one is letting slide. Let us know in the comments what you think about the officiating in this series. When asked whether this game felt like a reflection of the entire season, full of adversity, resilience, and bad breaks, Lexie gave an honest response. She admitted that Steph White had told the team in the huddle, "We're built for this moment." And when Kelsey Mitchell went down and Boston was hit with that questionable call, the Fever still kept pushing because, as Lexie said, "We've been here before." For her, it wasn't just unlucky, it was surreal, it was unfair, and it was crushing that such a defining moment had to unfold in this way. But maybe the biggest opponent Indiana faced that night wasn't the reigning champions, it was the referee crew and their whistles. That's how the entire series began to feel, because from Game 1 onward, there was a noticeable pattern. Each time the Fever built momentum, the rhythm was broken by a questionable call that swung possession right back to Vegas. One of the clearest examples was how Aliyah Boston kept getting tagged with soft fouls, the kind of contact that wouldn't even raise eyebrows in the NFL. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull fought through defenders who clung to them all series long, yet whistles stayed silent. By the time 3 games had passed, frustration wasn't about poor execution on Indiana's part, it was about the way the games were being called. These weren't isolated errors. By Game 3, the imbalance was impossible to ignore. The free throw numbers leaned heavily toward the Aces, giving them not just easy points, but also disrupting Indiana's defensive rhythm. It's hard to keep intensity alive when every stop results in a foul. On the other side, Fever players fought through near tackles at the rim with no whistle. Even coach Stephanie White admitted that the inconsistency made it nearly impossible to strategize. How do you prepare when a screen gets called illegal one possession and ignored the very next? Fans weren't the only ones who noticed. Media voices began pointing it out too. What some called bias, others began to suggest was special treatment for Aces stars. And with each game, as the free throw disparity grew and missed calls piled up, it looked less like coincidence, and more like a trend that jeopardized competitive balance. By the end of Game 4, no one could seriously argue that it was random. The Fever weren't just competing against Las Vegas, they were also trying to overcome officiating that continually shoved them backward. And if the first 4 games had already left fans seething, Game 5 made everything boil over. That deciding game felt rigged. Indiana fought with every ounce of strength, yet their roster was battered with injuries. 8 players were dealing with physical issues, and Boston fouled out on what many described as phantom calls. Still, somehow, they dragged the game into overtime. That fact alone proved just how determined this team was. Imagine battling for your season while every whistle feels predetermined against you. That's exactly what Indiana endured. This game wasn't simply about basketball execution anymore. It became about dodging phantom fouls and surviving when every scrap of momentum was redirected back toward the Aces. And yet, even with Mitchell being carried off and Boston sidelined with foul trouble, the Fever refused to disappear. They clawed, they fought, and they nearly pulled off the impossible. But no team can play 5-on-8 forever. Early in the second half, Boston was slapped with one of the weakest moving screen calls you'll ever see. On replay, she barely touched the defender, yet the whistle came anyway, almost as though the refs couldn't wait to assign her another foul. Minutes later, Megan Gustafson collapsed theatrically, and the officials rewarded her flop by charging Boston with an offensive foul. That sequence was infuriating enough, but the real dagger came in crunch time. With just 26 seconds left, Boston was battling Jackie Young for a rebound when the whistle blew for her sixth foul. She was out. Indiana challenged, desperate for someone to acknowledge what everyone else saw, that it was just two players fighting for position, but the call stood. Jackie Young went to the line, knocked down free throws, and gave Vegas the lead. The Fever had to finish regulation without their all-star center. Kelsey Mitchell, meanwhile, didn't even get the chance to help close the game. She'd been punished physically all night, arms draped across her body, hip checks on every drive, yet no whistles. The constant pounding left her body unable to continue. Other moments piled on. Jewel Lloyd shoved Lexie Hull so hard that fans expected at least a flagrant review, but nothing came. Natasha Howard took a swipe across the face, but again, silence from the refs. Odyssey Sims absorbed contact repeatedly, even got clipped on a drive in overtime, yet was somehow treated as the aggressor. The numbers themselves told the story. 25 fouls called on Indiana compared to far fewer on Vegas. Aya Wilson alone got 10 trips to the line. Boston, who spent the entire night wrestling for position in the paint, earned just 2 free throws. You don't need advanced analytics to see the imbalance. And still, despite the lopsided officiating, the Fever never folded. With Mitchell gone and Boston fouled out, Odyssey Sims exploded for 27 points, dragging the team back into a tie and forcing overtime. Indiana didn't extend the game because of the refs. They did it in defiance of them. It was resilience, yes, but more than that, it was pure defiance against a system that seemed designed to hold them down. That defiance, more than the scoreboard, defined the Fever's season. It showed in Odyssey Sims, a player who wasn't even on the roster for most of the year. Signed late on a hardship contract, she became the heartbeat of Game 5. Dropping 27 points with 6 assists while shooting 50% from the field, Sims carried Indiana when their offense broke down. Her drives through traffic, her fearless finishes through contact that went uncalled, and her crucial layup in regulation gave fans hope that maybe, just maybe, this game wouldn't be decided by a whistle. Sims wasn't just playing well, she embodied the grit and toughness that gave Indiana life when everything else had crumbled. Kelsey Mitchell reminded the league why she's considered one of the most dangerous scorers in women's basketball. Before cramps forced her out mid-third quarter, she was unstoppable. 15 points, 3 for 3 from deep, and relentless pressure on the Vegas defense. Even while defenders mauled her on cuts and drives, she kept attacking. She was the offensive leader Indiana desperately needed until her body simply gave out. Then there was Aliyah Boston, who once again proved that she's the anchor of this team. Even in limited minutes due to foul trouble, she produced, she scored, she defended, and she demanded the ball inside. She absorbed double teams and fought for every rebound. Her presence alone altered the game, until the refs stripped her chance away with that brutal sixth foul in the final seconds. That moment summed everything up. Boston dominated physically and earned her impact, but her chance to close the game was erased by a questionable whistle. Lexie Hull's performance was the kind that gets remembered. Battling through a back injury, she still produced 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, while playing relentless defense all over the floor. Diving for deflections, cutting off drives, and flying into passing lanes, she gave Indiana toughness and energy. But perhaps more importantly, after the game, Hull spoke out. Her words carried the frustration and pride of her teammates, showing why she has quickly become a leader in the locker room. She wasn't just playing injured, she was pledging herself to the team, physically and vocally. Shea Petty added her own quiet heroics. With Mitchell sidelined, Petty stepped up for 13 points, hitting 3 massive three-pointers that kept Indiana alive. Her floor spacing gave Sims the room to attack and prevented Vegas from burying the Fever with another big run. Without Petty's willingness to step up in that moment, the Fever's fight might have ended much earlier. And here's the real point. This wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. Clark will return healthy. Boston is growing stronger from these trials. Mitchell, Hull, and Cunningham embody the toughness that championships are built on. What Fever fans saw wasn't just a playoff run stolen in the semifinals. It was the foundation of a dynasty being laid in real time. That's why the anger over what was taken away so quickly shifts into belief about what's coming. Because make no mistake, the Fever aren't just building for the future. They've arrived. A 6th seed, beaten down by injuries and hardship contracts, just pushed the two-time champs to overtime in a deciding Game 5. Even when everything, from injuries to whistles, tilted against them, they never stopped fighting. That's not the mark of a young team learning. That's the mark of a team putting the league on notice. Next season, with Caitlin Clark fully recovered, Indiana's offense transforms completely. Boston will keep delivering double-doubles. Mitchell will return as the proven scorer who can light up any defense. Hull's defensive fire and leadership will remain vital. And with veterans like Sophie Cunningham adding toughness off the bench, the Fever aren't just fun underdogs anymore. They're a powerhouse in the making. The scars from this playoff run matter. They hurt. But they also give this team belief. And that belief, combined with Clark's return, means Indiana's championship window isn't years away. It's beginning right now. The Fever may have been robbed of a finals appearance, but what they built is far bigger than one series. They showed heart, they showed toughness, and they proved they can push a dynasty to the brink. So now, it's on us, the fans. Don't let the officiating controversy fade away. Keep the conversation alive, keep supporting this team, because they deserve more than just applause for their effort. They deserve a fan base as relentless as their play. The Fever's march into 2026 begins today, and they're coming back stronger and hungrier than ever. Let us know down below what you think about the referees in this series. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a moment. And be sure to click the video on your screen. We'll see you in the next one.